From that point onward, it became much more interesting for her.
Help us! Someone! My village! Someone!
You who seek help, enter. But know you this. If you enter the walls of Castle Grayskull, you may never again be the same as you are now.
On one of the rare occasions where I lost the toss of the coin and had to work a toy into the episode, it was Stridor. And basically it's a horse. And then you have to make this interesting somehow. So I tried to make him a heroic character and sacrificing and other kind of good stuff. And was freed at the end. But that was one of the cases where it was a toy mandated thing, but because it was just a horse, it wasn't too onerous. Had it been Horserus and he had two heads and one of them spoke only in Yiddish, then you'd have a problem. But just being a horse, I can deal with that.
Wow! It's a horse!
His name is Stridor. He has terrific strength and a computer system that can detect trouble quickly. The perfect companion for He-Man.
This is another one of my favorite ones from the episode Origin of the Sorceress, and the reason that it's so special to me is because it was very rare in the show that the Sorceress would actually have physical contact with He-Man, and so I set out to try to find one of those particular scenes, and this is one of those. This is on, I think, 3 layers. I think that He-Man is on one layer, the Sorceress is on another layer, and then her mouth is on a third layer. Layers means that it's on separate cells. It's on several separate cells, so that He-Man would not move in this instance. The Sorceress, her body might move first, and then her mouth would be the last thing that would be moving. And so that, being that they only wanted to animate just her mouth at that point, they would have it on a separate cell.
Now I, too, must be going, He-Man. The crystal that allows me to maintain my form outside Castle Grayskull is wearing off.
Before you go, Sorceress, I want to thank you for all that you've done. Not just today, but for all of those years you patiently waited, protecting Castle Grayskull.
It has been the highest honor, He-Man. And it has been, and always will be, a joy for me to call you my friend.
She's a very special person, He-Man.
Yes, Duncan, she is. She's very special indeed.
The job of the writer is to put things up on the shelf that say this is who I was and how I saw the world. On the theory that when you're gone, it's still on the shelf. And people can walk up and take it down, look at it, and say, oh, so you can put it back up again. He-Man, oddly enough, as ephemeral as it might be, as trivial as it might be, has endured. And there are still fans out there who watch the show, who've recorded it, shown it to their kids, who grew up on the show. Parenthetical, the next one of you walks up to me and says, I grew up being a small child watching your show. It's in the net. End parenthetical. If the work has survived, it's because they respond to the story. They realize it is what it is. They know where the money came from. They know this is toys. But whether it's a He-Man mask or a Kabuki mask, what matters is what happens behind the mask. And that's where the story lives. And that's what the fans respond to. Because there were stories of hope, there were stories of character, stories of family, and stories of not giving up. The thing about the characters in the show is that there's a certain stubborn nobility about them. Amidst all the foolishness that says we don't surrender. We're not making a big deal out of it, not beating our chests about it, but we don't give up. And that's important, I think.
I have never had any fan mail from anybody on the show. In fact, I didn't know that they even knew it was still out there. Until you called me, I didn't know that there was even any interest. It makes you feel very good to know that your efforts were appreciated. They still have fans out there who watch the shows and who like them. That really makes you feel good. The fact that they remember some of those stories, I think it's great. I wish that some of the modern cartoon makers would look back at some of these episodes and take a cue from that and do that sort of thing again. Just, you can't beat good basic writing. If you don't have the stories, you don't have a show. All the budget in the world is not going to make a good show. You have to have the scripts like that. Meaningful stories.